Lieutenant Sarah Chen had been a Navy SEAL for 8 years before a training accident shattered her knee and ended her career. Now, at 32, she was starting over as a first-year nurse at Memorial Hospital in Virginia Beach. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was the life she had. On her first day, Sarah stood in the staff lounge, her fresh scrub still creased from the package. The other nurses barely looked up from their phones. She was used to being invisible now. In the SEALs, she'd commanded respect through years of proving herself. Here, she was just another rookie in a sea of experienced nurses who'd seen 1,000 new faces come and go. "You're the new girl, right?" A tall nurse named Rebecca glanced at her badge. "Sarah Chen, let me guess, couldn't cut it in pre-med, so you're settling for nursing." Sarah bit back her first response. "Just happy to be here," she said quietly. Rebecca smirked. "Well, stay out of the way and maybe you won't kill anyone on your first week." Sarah had faced Taliban fighters and survived Hell Week. She could handle a mean nurse. She nodded and walked to her assigned floor, where her supervisor, nurse manager Patricia Rodriguez, waited with a clipboard and a tired smile. "Don't mind Rebecca," Patricia said. "She's hard on everyone. Now let me show you the ICU. We've got a tough case in room 12. Been here 3 weeks. 20 different doctors have looked at him and nobody can figure out what's wrong." They walked down the sterile hallway to room 12. Through the window, Sarah saw a man in his 40s lying motionless in the bed. Machines beeped around him. His chart hung on the door: Marcus Webb, age 43, unknown neurological condition. "What are his symptoms?" Sarah asked. Patricia sighed. "That's the problem. He's conscious but won't respond to anyone. Won't speak, won't move, barely blinks. Brain scans are normal. Blood work is normal. Everything is normal. But he's locked inside himself somehow. His wife comes every day and sits with him. Breaks your heart." Sarah studied the chart more carefully. Military veteran, Navy background, honorable discharge 10 years ago, current occupation, defense contractor. "Can I see him?" Sarah asked. Patricia looked surprised. "You want to on your first day?" "I'd like to introduce myself, if that's okay." Patricia shrugged. "Sure, just don't expect much. Like I said, 20 doctors and countless nurses have tried. He doesn't respond to anything." Sarah entered the room quietly. The man's eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. His breathing was steady, mechanical. She pulled up a chair beside the bed and sat down. "Mr. Webb, my name is Sarah Chen. I'm going to be one of your nurses." She paused, watching for any reaction. Nothing. "I know you probably hear this a lot, but we're going to take good care of you." Still nothing. Sarah started to stand, then noticed something on his bedside table. A faded photograph of Marcus in his Navy uniform, younger, stronger, standing with a group of men. They all wore the same patch on their shoulders. Sarah's heart skipped. She recognized that patch. She'd worked alongside men who wore it during joint operations, naval special warfare. This man had been a SEAL. She sat back down, her mind racing. In SEAL training, they'd learned about psychological breaks, about men who'd seen too much, done too much, until something inside them just stopped. The doctors were treating this like a medical mystery, but what if it was something else? Sarah leaned closer. "Marcus," she said softly, using his first name now. "I know what you are, I know where you've been." His eyes didn't move, but she thought she saw something, the smallest flicker in his jaw. "I was a SEAL too," she whispered. "Team 3, 8 years. I know what it's like to carry things nobody else can understand." This time she was sure. His right hand twitched. Sarah's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm going to help you, but I need you to trust me. If you can hear me, if you understand, blink twice." The room was silent except for the beeping monitors. 5 seconds passed, 10, 15. Then slowly, deliberately, Marcus Webb blinked. Once, twice. Sarah exhaled. "Good, that's good, Marcus. Now I need to know, is someone making you do this? Are you in danger?" Two blinks, yes. Sarah's mind shifted into tactical mode. Someone had threatened this man into silence. Someone had scared a Navy SEAL so badly that he'd rather lie catatonic in a hospital bed than speak. This wasn't a medical case. This was something far more dangerous. I'm going to figure this out, Sarah promised. But I need to be smart about it. I need to know who I can trust. Is your wife safe? Two blinks. Are you protecting her by staying silent? Two blinks. Sarah nodded. She understood now. This man had chosen paralysis over putting his family at risk. Whatever he knew, whoever was threatening him, it was serious enough that he'd sacrifice everything to keep them safe. Okay, Sarah said. I'm going to leave now, but I'll be back. And Marcus, I'm going to find a way to help you. That's a promise. As she stood to leave, she noticed his eyes had moved. They were looking at her now, fully focused for the first time in weeks. In them, she saw desperation, fear, and a tiny spark of hope. Sarah walked out of room 12 and headed straight to the nurse's station. She needed to review his file more carefully. She needed to understand who'd visited him, who'd called asking questions, anything that might give her a clue. But when she got there, Rebecca was waiting, arms crossed. Already breaking protocol, new girl, Rebecca held up a printout. You spent 20 minutes in that room. First-day nurses get 10 minutes max per patient. Think you're special. Sarah met her eyes. I was introducing myself. Sure you were. Let me give you some advice, don't get attached. That man in room 12 is a vegetable. The doctors have given up. His insurance is about to run out. In 2 weeks he'll be transferred to a state facility and you'll never see him again. So save yourself the heartbreak. Sarah didn't respond. She just took the printout, filed it, and went back to work. But inside, her mind was already planning. She had 2 weeks to figure out what was happening to Marcus Webb. 2 weeks to save a brother SEAL from whatever danger had locked him inside his own body. Sarah's second day started at 5 in the morning. She'd barely slept, her mind running through possibilities all night. Before her shift, she drove to the public library and used their computer to research Marcus Webb. What she found made her stomach turn. 6 months ago, Marcus had worked for Sentinel Defense Solutions, a private military contractor. 3 months ago, he'd been scheduled to testify before a congressional committee about contractor fraud. 2 months ago, he'd been admitted to Memorial Hospital with his mysterious condition. The testimony never happened. Sarah printed everything she could find and stuffed the papers into her bag. This wasn't just about saving a patient. This was about exposing something much bigger. At the hospital, she avoided Rebecca and went straight to room 12. Marcus was exactly as she'd left him, eyes open, staring at nothing. But when she entered, those eyes shifted to her. "Good morning," Sarah said, checking his vitals. The machines all showed normal readings. "I did some research last night. I know about Sentinel Defense Solutions. I know about the congressional testimony." Marcus's jaw tightened, 2 blinks. "The people who did this to you, are they watching the hospital?" 2 blinks. Sarah's blood ran cold, but her face stayed calm. "Okay, then we need to be careful. I'm going to examine you like normal. Don't react to what I'm about to say." She pulled out her stethoscope and listened to his heartbeat, which was elevated. "I think you were poisoned. Something that mimics a neurological condition but doesn't show up on standard tests. Something military grade. Am I right?" His heart rate spiked on the monitor, 2 blinks. "And the doctors don't know because they're not looking for it. They think it's natural." 2 blinks. Sarah straightened up, her mind working through the problem. If Marcus had been poisoned with something exotic, she'd need to find out what it was. And she'd need to do it without alerting whoever was watching him. "Your wife," Sarah said, "does she know what you're protecting her from?" 1 blink, no. "Good, keep it that way." Sarah made a note on his chart, something innocuous about his vitals. "I'm going to need a blood sample, a real one, not the standard hospital draw. Something I can send to a private lab. 2 blinks. But before Sarah could do anything else, the door opened. A woman in her early 40s walked in, her eyes red from crying. Marcus's wife, Jennifer. Sarah had seen her name in the file. "Oh," Jennifer said, surprised. "I didn't know someone would be here so early." Sarah smiled gently. "Just checking vitals. I'm Sarah, one of the new nurses." Jennifer walked to Marcus's bedside and took his hand. She did this every day. Sarah had learned from reading the notes. Sat with him for hours, talking to him, reading to him, begging him to wake up. "Any change?" Jennifer asked, though her voice said she already knew the answer. "He's stable," Sarah said. It was all she could say. Jennifer nodded and pulled out a book, a Tom Clancy novel. "We used to read these together," she explained. Before this happened, I keep thinking maybe if he hears something familiar." Sarah watched Marcus's face. His eyes had moved to his wife, and in them was such profound sadness that Sarah had to look away. "I'll give you some privacy," Sarah said. But as she moved toward the door, Jennifer spoke again. "Do you think he knows I'm here? The doctors say maybe, maybe not. But I need to believe he does. I need to believe he's still in there somewhere." Sarah looked at Marcus, then back at Jennifer. She couldn't tell her the truth, not yet, not until she understood the danger, but she could give her something. "I think he knows," Sarah said softly. "I think he hears every word you say." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Sarah left the room, her resolve hardening. This wasn't just about Marcus anymore. It was about the woman who loved him, who sat by his bedside every day not knowing that her husband was trapped, conscious, aware, suffering. In the break room, Sarah found Patricia reviewing schedules. "Can I ask you something about Marcus Webb?" Sarah said. Patricia looked up. "Sure, what do you need?" "Has anyone unusual visited him? Anyone who wasn't family?" Patricia thought for a moment. "Now that you mention it, yeah. About a week ago, 2 men came by, said they were from his old company checking on him. They asked a lot of questions about his condition, his prognosis. Made me uncomfortable, honestly. Too interested in the details." "Did they give names?" "One did, said his name was." Patricia flipped through a log book. "Here it is, James Garrett, said he was Marcus's former supervisor." Sarah filed the name away. "Thanks." "Why do you ask?" Sarah shrugged, keeping her voice casual. "Just curious. He seems like an interesting case." Patricia gave her a long look. "Sarah, I've been doing this for 25 years. I know when a nurse is just curious and when they're onto something. What's going on?" Sarah hesitated. Could she trust Patricia? The woman seemed kind, competent. But if the wrong person found out Sarah was investigating? "I think something's not right with his case," Sarah said carefully. "I can't explain it yet, but I need to do some checking." Quietly. Patricia studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but be careful. And if you need anything officially or otherwise, you come to me. Understand?" "Thank you." The rest of the day passed in a blur of routine tasks, but Sarah's mind never stopped working. During her lunch break, she called an old friend from her SEAL days, a woman named Lisa who now worked at Walter Reed Medical Center. "Sarah Chen," Lisa said when she answered. "I heard you retired. How's civilian life?" "Complicated," Sarah said. "Listen, I need a favor. I need to know about exotic poisons or drugs that could cause paralysis without showing up on standard medical tests." There was a pause. "That's a very specific question." "I know. Are you in trouble?" "Not me, someone I'm trying to help." Another pause. "There are a few things, some used by intelligence agencies, some experimental, all very illegal on civilians. If someone's using something like that, you're dealing with serious people, Sarah." "I know, can you send me a list, things to test for?" "I'll email it to you tonight. But Sarah, be careful. People who use these kinds of things don't like witnesses." After her shift, Sarah sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, watching. She'd noticed a black SUV parked across the street, same one that had been there yesterday. The windows were tinted, but she could see the glow of a phone inside. Someone was watching the hospital, watching Marcus's room. Sarah started her engine and drove home, checking her mirror constantly. Nobody followed her, but she didn't relax. She'd been trained to spot surveillance, and her instincts were screaming that she was walking into something dangerous. That night, Lisa's email arrived. Sarah read through the list of compounds: tetrodotoxin derivatives, synthetic paralytic agents, modified neurotoxins. All of them could mimic neurological conditions. All of them required specialized tests to detect. Sarah made her decision. Tomorrow, she would get a blood sample from Marcus. She would send it to a private lab that Lisa recommended, and she would find out exactly what had been done to him. But as she lay in bed trying to sleep, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop asking questions about Marcus Webb. This is your only warning." Sarah stared at the message, her heart pounding. They knew. Whoever had poisoned Marcus, whoever was watching him, they knew she was investigating. She could walk away, go back to being a regular nurse, pretend she'd never noticed anything wrong. But Sarah Chen had never walked away from a fight in her life, and she wasn't about to start now. She deleted the message and went to sleep, her old Sig Sauer pistol now loaded on her nightstand. Tomorrow, the real mission would begin. Part 3, the call sign. Sarah arrived at the hospital before dawn, her car loaded with everything she'd need. She'd called in a favor with a former SEAL medic who'd given her a specialized blood kit, one designed to preserve exotic compounds. Now she just needed to get Marcus alone. But when she reached room 12, she found Rebecca already there, checking Marcus's IV. "You're here early," Rebecca said, not looking up. "Could say the same about you." Rebecca finally met her eyes. "Look, new girl, I'm going to be straight with you. I saw you researching Marcus Webb's case yesterday on the computer. I saw you talking to Patricia. Whatever you think you're doing, stop." Sarah kept her face neutral. "I'm just trying to help a patient." "No, you're trying to play hero, and it's going to get you fired." Rebecca stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I've been a nurse for 15 years. I've seen dozens of rookies like you who think they can solve every mystery, save every patient. You can't. Some cases don't have answers. Some people don't get better. Accept it and move on." "Is that what you did? Accepted it and moved on?" Rebecca's face hardened. "Yes, because that's the job. We do what we can and then we let go. Marcus Webb is going to a long-term care facility in 10 days. Nothing you do will change that." After Rebecca left, Sarah stood alone in the hallway thinking. 10 days. She had even less time than she thought. She entered Marcus's room and locked the door behind her. His eyes found hers immediately. "We need to talk," Sarah said, "and I need you to trust me completely." 2 blinks. Sarah pulled out the blood kit. "I'm going to take a sample and send it to a private lab. If you were poisoned like I think, we'll find it. But Marcus, I need to know everything. I need to know what you were going to testify about." She pulled out a notepad and pen. "I'm going to ask yes or no questions. Blink twice for yes, once for no. Understand?" 2 blinks. "Did Sentinel Defense Solutions defraud the government?" 2 blinks. "Did they threaten you to stop your testimony?" 2 blinks. "Did they poison you?" 2 blinks. "Are there others involved, government officials?" Marcus's eyes widened, then slowly 2 blinks. Sarah's hand tightened on the pen. This was bigger than corporate fraud. This involved people with real power, real reach. "Okay," she said, "I'm going to draw the blood now." She worked quickly, professionally, filling 3 vials with blood and carefully labeling them. As she finished, Marcus made a sound, the first sound she'd heard from him, a low grunt like he was trying to speak. Sarah leaned closer. "What is it?" Marcus's mouth moved, struggling to form words. His whole body tensed with the effort. Finally, barely audible, he managed 2 syllables. Ghost Hawk. Sarah froze. Ghost Hawk. She knew that call sign. It belonged to Commander Jack Morrison, a SEAL legend who'd retired 5 years ago and now worked in government contracting for Sentinel Defense Solutions. Ghost Hawk poisoned you. 2 blinks. He's the one watching the hospital. 2 blinks. Sarah sat back, her mind reeling. Jack Morrison was a decorated war hero, a man who'd saved countless lives. The idea that he'd poison a fellow SEAL, that he'd threaten families, seemed impossible. But Sarah had learned long ago that anyone could be corrupted. Anyone could cross the line. "Does Ghost Hawk know who I am?" Sarah asked. "Does he know I was a SEAL?" 1 blink, no. That was good. If Morrison didn't know her background, he might underestimate her. Might think she was just a nosy nurse who could be scared off with a threatening text message. He was about to learn otherwise. Sarah pocketed the blood samples. "I'm going to mail these today. Results should be back in 48 hours. In the meantime, I need you to hang on. Can you do that?" 2 blinks. As Sarah turned to leave, Marcus made another sound. This time it was clearer. "Call, sign." Sarah understood. "You want to know mine?" 2 blinks. She smiled, the first real smile she'd had in days. "Phoenix," she said. "They called me Phoenix because I kept coming back from missions everyone said were suicide runs." Marcus's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. Sarah left the room and went straight to the post office, where she overnight shipped the blood samples to Lisa's recommended lab. Then she went back to the hospital and worked her shift like nothing had happened. But that afternoon, everything changed. Sarah was checking supplies in the medication room when she heard raised voices in the hallway. She stepped out and saw 2 men in expensive suits talking to Patricia. One of them was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. Jack Morrison, Ghost Hawk himself. "We're Marcus Webb's former employers," Morrison was saying, his voice smooth and authoritative. "We'd like to visit him, pay our respects." Patricia looked uncomfortable. "Visiting hours are." "We won't take long," the other man interrupted. "We just want to see how he's doing." Sarah's instincts screamed danger. If Morrison got alone with Marcus, if he realized Marcus could communicate, he might finish what he started. "Excuse me," Sarah said, stepping forward. "Marcus Webb is my patient. He's not cleared for visitors right now. Doctor's orders." Morrison's eyes fixed on her, and Sarah felt the weight of his stare. This was a man used to getting what he wanted. "And you are?" "Sarah Chen, Mr. Webb's primary nurse." "I see." Morrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Perhaps you could check with his doctor. We've come a long way." "I'll pass along your request," Sarah said firmly. "But the answer will be no. Mr. Webb's condition requires minimal stimulation. No unnecessary visitors." For a moment, Morrison just looked at her. Sarah held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. She'd stared down terrorist leaders. She could handle a corrupt contractor. Finally, Morrison nodded. "Of course, we understand." He handed Patricia a business card. "Please call us if his condition changes. We're very concerned about our former colleague." After they left, Patricia turned to Sarah. "That was ballsy." "That was necessary," Sarah replied. But as she walked back to the nurse's station, she felt eyes on her. She glanced out the window and saw Morrison standing by the black SUV, talking on his phone. He was looking up at the hospital, directly at her floor. Sarah's phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. "Last chance, walk away." Sarah deleted it without responding. Then she went to room 12 and found Marcus's eyes already on the door, waiting for her. "Ghost Hawk was just here," she said quietly. "I didn't let him in." Marcus's entire body relaxed. Relief flooded his eyes. But he knows I'm involved now, Sarah continued. Which means things are going to get harder. I need to ask you something important. The testimony you were going to give, did you make a backup? Evidence, recordings, documents? Marcus blinked twice, then his eyes moved to the photograph on his bedside table, the one of him in uniform. Sarah picked it up and turned it over. On the back, written in permanent marker, were numbers, coordinates, a code. Is this where the evidence is? 2 blinks. Sarah memorized the numbers and put the photo back. I'll find it. But Marcus, if something happens to me, if Morrison makes a move, you need to wake up. You need to fight whatever is in your system and wake up. For Jennifer, for yourself. Understand. Marcus's eyes filled with tears, 2 blinks. That night, as Sarah left the hospital, she noticed the black SUV was gone. But she wasn't foolish enough to think that meant she was safe. Morrison was a SEAL. He knew how to hunt. And now she was the target. Sarah drove home, taking a random route, checking for tails. When she finally pulled into her driveway, she sat for a moment, gathering her thoughts. She'd taken on corrupt contractors. She'd made enemies of people who could make her disappear. But she'd also found something she'd lost when she left the SEALs, a mission, a purpose. The blood test results came back at 3 in the morning. Sarah was awake, had been for hours, unable to sleep. When her encrypted email pinged, she grabbed her laptop. The lab had found it, a synthetic compound based on batrachotoxin, the same poison used by South American poison dart frogs, but modified, military grade, untraceable unless you knew exactly what to look for. It caused complete paralysis while leaving the victim conscious and aware. Eventually, it would be metabolized and disappear from the system completely. But there was good news. The lab had also sent the formula for an antidote. It wasn't FDA approved, wasn't even legal in the United States, but it would work. Sarah sat in her dark apartment staring at the screen. She had the proof now. She had the cure. But she also had a problem. If she gave Marcus the antidote at the hospital, Morrison would know. His people were watching. The moment Marcus woke up, they'd make their move. She needed a plan, and she needed help. At 7 a.m., Sarah walked into Patricia's office and closed the door. I need to tell you something, Sarah said. And when I'm done, you can either help me or report me. But either way, lives are at stake. Patricia set down her coffee. I'm listening. Sarah told her everything. About Marcus being a SEAL, about the poison, about Sentinel Defense Solutions and Jack Morrison, about the congressional testimony and the evidence Marcus had hidden, about the threats and the surveillance. When she finished, Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Do you have proof? Patricia finally asked. Sarah showed her the lab results on her phone. Patricia read them, her face growing pale. My God, someone actually poisoned him here, in my hospital. And they'll kill him if we wake him up the normal way. We need to move him somewhere safe first. How? I don't know yet, Sarah admitted, but I'm working on it. Patricia stood and paced her small office. This is insane. We should call the police, the FBI. Morrison has connections everywhere. We don't know who we can trust. So what are you suggesting? Sarah met her eyes. I'm suggesting we get Marcus out of here tonight. We wake him up somewhere Morrison can't reach him. Then we get the evidence and we blow this whole thing wide open. Patricia laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're asking me to help you kidnap a patient. I'm asking you to help me save a man's life. They stared at each other. Then Patricia sighed and sat back down. My daughter is a lawyer, works for the DOJ. She's one of the good ones. If we can get Marcus out and wake him up, I can get her to bring federal protection. But Sarah, if this goes wrong, we both lose everything. Our careers, maybe our freedom. I know. And you still want to do this. He's a SEAL, Sarah said simply. We don't leave people behind. Patricia nodded slowly. Okay, I'm in. What do you need? They spent the rest of the day planning. Patricia would arrange a fake transfer to a long-term care facility. She had the authority to sign off on it. Sarah would drive the ambulance herself. They'd take Marcus to a safe house that Sarah still had access to from her SEAL days, a place the team used to use for off-the-books operations. But at 4 p.m., everything fell apart. Sarah was in room 12, explaining the plan to Marcus, when Rebecca burst in. "What are you doing?" Rebecca demanded. Sarah turned, her body automatically shifting to block Rebecca's view of Marcus. "Just checking vitals." "Bullshit." Rebecca strode forward and saw the medical bag Sarah had prepared. "What is this? What are you planning?" "Rebecca, please. You're going to steal a patient. You're going to lose your license, go to jail, and I'm not going to let you drag this hospital down with you." Rebecca pulled out her phone. "I'm calling security." Sarah moved fast. She grabbed the phone from Rebecca's hand and tossed it onto the bed, out of reach. "Listen to me," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "Marcus Webb was poisoned by his former employer to stop him from testifying about government fraud. I have proof. If we don't get him out of here tonight, he's going to die. Or worse, he's going to spend the rest of his life locked in his own body." Rebecca stared at her like she was insane. "You've lost your mind." "Look at the lab results." Sarah pulled out her phone and showed Rebecca the blood test. "This compound, it's not natural. Someone did this to him deliberately." Rebecca looked at the screen, her face skeptical. But as she read, Sarah saw doubt creep in. "Even if this is true," Rebecca said slowly, "you can't just take him. There are procedures, laws." "The people who did this don't care about laws," Sarah interrupted. "They care about covering their tracks, and right now, we're the only thing standing between Marcus and a shallow grave." Behind them, Marcus made a sound. Both women turned. He was looking at Rebecca, his eyes desperate, pleading. Rebecca stepped closer to the bed, really looking at him for the first time in weeks. "Can you hear me?" she asked. 2 blinks. "Oh my God," Rebecca whispered. "You've been conscious this whole time." 2 blinks. Rebecca's hand went to her mouth. "All those doctors, all those tests, and you were trapped." She turned back to Sarah, her eyes hard. "What do you need me to do?" 20 minutes later, they had a new plan. Rebecca would help create a distraction on the floor while Patricia processed the transfer paperwork. Sarah would get Marcus to the ambulance bay. They had a 4-hour window before the next shift change, before anyone would notice he was gone. At 8 p.m., Sarah checked the hallway one more time. The black SUV was back in the parking lot. Morrison's men were watching, but they wouldn't expect the hospital to discharge a patient in the evening. "Ready?" Patricia asked. Sarah nodded. "Let's go." Rebecca created chaos at the nurse's station, claiming a patient on the other end of the floor was coding. As staff rushed to respond, Sarah and Patricia wheeled Marcus out of room 12, down the service elevator, and out to the ambulance bay. Sarah had already started the ambulance, had it running and ready. They loaded Marcus in the back, and Patricia squeezed Sarah's hand. "My daughter is meeting you at the safe house. She's bringing a federal prosecutor she trusts. Get him there, wake him up, and let the truth come out." "Thank you," Sarah said. "No, thank you, for giving a damn when everyone else gave up." Sarah climbed into the driver's seat and pulled out of the bay. In her mirror, she saw the hospital growing smaller. No sign of pursuit, not yet. But as she turned onto the main road, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "You just made a fatal mistake, Phoenix," Jack Morrison's voice said. Sarah's blood went cold. He knew her call sign. He knew who she was. "How? Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? A nurse who just happens to be asking questions about Marcus, who just happens to know about military poisons. I ran your background. Navy SEAL Team 3, very impressive, but you're out of your depth now." "You're the one who's out of your depth," Sarah said. "I have the evidence. I have witnesses. It's over, Morrison." It's not over until I say it's over. Turn around. Bring Marcus back, walk away, or Jennifer Webb dies tonight. Sarah's hands tightened on the wheel. You're bluffing. Am I? I have 2 men outside her apartment right now. One phone call and she's gone. Your choice, Phoenix. Marcus's life or his wife's. The line went dead. In the back of the ambulance, Marcus was making sounds, struggling against the paralysis. He'd heard. He knew his wife was in danger. Sarah pulled over, her mind racing. She couldn't save both. If she went to Jennifer, Morrison's men would intercept the ambulance. If she kept going to the safe house, Jennifer would die. Unless she did something Morrison wouldn't expect. Sarah grabbed her phone and called the one person she trusted more than anyone. Lisa, she said when her friend answered, I need every favor you're owed right now. Sarah drove through the dark Virginia streets, her phone on speaker as Lisa made calls. Within 15 minutes, Lisa had mobilized a team of retired SEALs, men and women who owed her favors, who remembered what it meant to be part of the Brotherhood. 2 are heading to Jennifer Webb's apartment now, Lisa reported. They'll get her somewhere safe. Thank you, Sarah breathed. Don't thank me yet. Morrison's got resources too. This is going to get messy. In the back of the ambulance, Marcus was making more sounds, fighting harder against the paralysis. Sarah pulled over and climbed into the back. Your wife is going to be okay, she told him. I have people protecting her, but I need you to listen. I'm going to give you the antidote now. It's going to hurt like hell and it's going to take about 20 minutes to work. When you can move again, we're going to finish this. Together. Understand? 2 blinks. Sarah prepared the injection, her hands steady despite the adrenaline pumping through her system. She'd done medical procedures under fire before, in combat zones, with bullets flying overhead. This was just another mission. She administered the antidote and watched as Marcus's body began to react. His muscles spasmed, his breathing grew ragged. This was the compound breaking down, his nervous system coming back online. It looked like torture, but it was healing. Breathe through it, Sarah said. You've survived worse. After 15 minutes, Marcus's hand moved. Really moved, not just a twitch. His fingers curled into a fist, then released. Good, Sarah said. Keep fighting. By minute 20, Marcus was taking deeper breaths. His eyes were more focused. And then, for the first time in 3 months, he spoke. Jennifer. His voice was rough, barely audible, but it was there. She's safe, Sarah assured him. My people have her. Marcus tried to sit up, but his body wasn't ready. Sarah helped him into a sitting position. How long? He asked. 3 months. Morrison poisoned you the day before you were supposed to testify. Marcus's face hardened. The evidence, we need the evidence. I found your coordinates, but we need to get you stable first. Can you walk? Can I walk? Marcus laughed, a harsh sound. Phoenix, I can run. After 3 months of being trapped in my own head, I can fly. He wasn't exaggerating. By the time they reached the safe house, a small cabin in the woods outside Richmond, Marcus was on his feet, shaky but mobile. Patricia's daughter was waiting with a federal prosecutor named David Chen. No relation to Sarah, but they joked about it anyway. Mr. Webb, David said, I need you to tell me everything from the beginning. They sat around a worn table, and Marcus talked. He told them about Sentinel Defense Solutions' scheme to defraud the government of $200 million, about falsified equipment reports, about weapons that didn't exist, armor that was never delivered, about the congressmen and Pentagon officials who'd been bribed to look the other way. And he told them about Jack Morrison, the decorated war hero who'd become the operations enforcer, the man who'd threatened families, who'd poisoned Marcus, who'd been willing to let him rot in a hospital bed forever rather than let the truth come out. I have everything documented, Marcus said. Bank records, emails, recorded conversations. I hid it all before they got to me. Where? David asked. Marcus gave them the coordinates from the photograph. They were GPS points for a storage facility 40 miles away. "We need to retrieve it tonight," David said, "before Morrison realizes what's happening." "He already knows," Sarah said. "He called me. He knows we took Marcus." David's face grew grim. "Then we move fast. I'll call the FBI, get a team together." "No," Sarah said. "Morrison has people everywhere. We can't trust official channels, not yet." "So what do you suggest?" Sarah looked at Marcus. "How many people does Morrison have?" "In Virginia, maybe 10, but they're all former special operations. They know what they're doing." "So do we," Sarah said. She pulled out her phone and made another call, this time to her old SEAL team, the men she'd served with who'd promised to always have her back. 20 minutes later, 4 SUVs pulled up to the cabin. Out stepped 8 former SEALs, all armed, all ready. "Heard you needed some help, Phoenix," said their former team leader, a man named John Cross. Sarah smiled. "I need to secure a storage facility and retrieve evidence. Hostile forces inbound, probably a 10-man team." Cross grinned. "So we outnumber them. I like those odds." They drove in convoy to the storage facility, arriving just before midnight. The place was dark, quiet, too quiet. "They're already here," Marcus said. Sarah nodded. She could feel it too, that electric tension in the air before combat. Morrison's men were waiting, watching. "Cross, take 3 and secure the perimeter," Sarah ordered, slipping back into her old command voice. "Marcus, you're with me and 2 others. We go in, get the evidence, and get out. Weapons free if engaged." They moved like ghosts through the storage facility. Sarah's team reached Unit 247, Marcus's unit, without incident. Marcus opened it with a key he'd hidden in his hospital room, taped under his bed frame. Inside were boxes of documents, hard drives, USB drives, years of evidence. "Start loading," Sarah said. But as they worked, gunfire erupted outside. Morrison's team had made their move. "Contact," Cross's voice came through the radio. "Multiple hostiles south entrance." Sarah grabbed a rifle from one of her teammates. "Get the evidence to the vehicles. I'll cover you." Marcus put a hand on her arm. "I can fight." "You can barely stand," Sarah said. "Get the evidence out, that's the mission now." More gunfire, shouts. Sarah ran toward the sound, her muscle memory taking over. She'd done this 1,000 times, moved toward danger while others ran away. She found Cross and his team pinned down behind a row of storage units. Across the open drive, Morrison's men had taken up positions, firing in controlled bursts. 8 tangos, Cross reported. "Well-trained, professional." "Where's Morrison?" "Haven't seen him." Because Morrison would be going for the evidence, Sarah realized. He'd sent his men to tie them down while he went for Marcus. "Hold them here," Sarah said. "I'm going back." She sprinted back toward Unit 247, her heart pounding. She arrived just in time to see Jack Morrison standing in the doorway, gun pointed at Marcus. "Step away from the boxes," Morrison said calmly. Sarah raised her rifle. "Drop the weapon, Commander." Morrison didn't even look at her. "Phoenix, I wondered if you'd show up. You know, I read your file, very impressive. 8 years, multiple commendations. You were one of the good ones." Were past tense, because now you're a traitor, aiding and abetting a criminal, interfering with national security. "National security," Sarah laughed. "You stole $200 million. You poisoned a fellow SEAL. You threatened innocent people. You're not protecting anything except your bank account." "You don't understand the bigger picture," Morrison said. "The money we took funded operations the government couldn't officially sanction. We did the dirty work nobody else would do. We kept this country safe. By stealing. By being willing to cross lines others wouldn't." "No," Marcus said, his voice stronger now. "You crossed lines because you could, because you got greedy. Don't dress it up as patriotism." Morrison's gun hand tightened. "I gave you a chance to walk away, Marcus. I gave you 3 months to think about it, but you just couldn't let it go."